Yesterday, I found myself thinking about something very interesting that I'd like to talk about today. So I have a driver here in Dubai, and he's a very quiet and simple human being. And a few days ago, he showed me a battery generator, portable one that he had created out of nothing. And this started a conversation, and I realized that, oh my God, this person here is so talented, and he's actually capable of creating something amazing for himself in the future if he wants to go that way. And we had a conversation about that, and it kind of took me back as well to where I was, like I was doing something that for practical purposes, but deep down I was always experimenting with myself on something I actually loved. And I could see the whole parallel, and it was a very exciting realization for me, and a very necessary and important one, because it goes back to a very critical starting point or conversation that we all have within ourselves. That we're doing something, we're doing it because we have to, but ultimately in our spare time, we're doing something we love because we want to. And this is extremely, extremely important. And what differentiates the person who stays stuck where they are from the person who actually moves on is the courage to actually take that step. And it's not easy, It's actually a very frightening experience, because where you are is your current security. And the courage to go where you want to go is a very insecure space, which which could affect you in the short run, but could actually be the most amazing thing you ever did in the long run. And sometimes you just really have to trust in that process. And I think this is really what distinguishes the person who ultimately finds themselves or does something exceptional in the future from the person who sits behind and says, if only that could have been me. Oh my God, I had that idea. I wish I did it. I'm really upset, or all the feelings that you start getting within yourself for actually not having the courage to do the thing that you love. I personally encouraged him to actually refine the prototype of what he does. And if I can help, obviously I would. And this is another important thing, that you will come across people, if you have the courage to show them what you do, who will find a way to help you, Staying silent about it isn't going to amount to anything, because the only person who knows that hidden talent is you. You need to be able to share it, to come out and to express it. Now, I expressed my talent in a different way. So I'm going to tell you a little story of, once again, when I was back in London, because that's actually when it all started for me. I got married, and then I moved to London, and I realized that, I wanted to actually do something for myself for the very first time in my life, I no longer wanted to be the person I wasn't. I no longer wanted to be the stereotypical image of the daughter doing a specific thing in a direction that she didn't want to do, or she wasn't. So I remember, again, back in my London days, a story where I would always seek situations where I could invent myself. So what I mean, for example, if fashion was what I loved, I had to find the scene or the situation where I could walk in and be the stylish image of the person I saw myself as. I could reinvent myself without being judged, because the setting and the scene means that you can actually walk in and be the way that you want. So it's kind of like finding my stage. And when you're on stage, you can be whoever you want. And that for me has always been an interesting and exciting part of fashion. It's the fact that you can always change the look, change the person you want to be for that specific moment. It's kind of like acting as well. You know, once you're on set, you are a different personality than when you go back to your private life. You are the person, you are yourself. But sometimes you need that, you know, and I always felt that I needed that form of expression. And that was still back in the days when I'm formulating, I'm figuring it out, I'm trying to understand how to pull together this whole fashion or brand that I want to do. Because you have to remember, I went and I spent 4 to 5 years studying something that had nothing to do with fashion. So actually I didn't have the building blocks. I didn't have the basic skills and crafts that I could have started out with. I was starting out with just me and how I could, you know, pull together these different skills and crafts and create a story for myself, knowing that I didn't have the background that a normal art or fashion student would have. So I was doing it in a much more difficult way, if I could say it in that way. So I remember I used to do what party gate crashers would do. So party gate crashers go into random parties and just enjoy it. But in my case, I was looking for events. So I was looking for fashion events where I could just go. I was looking for, you know, ball parties, fashion events, anything specifically linked to that world of fashion where I could create something, sort of like my Cinderella moment, create something for myself and just walk in. And I remember a friend of mine came up to me and said to me, oh, you know, that they saw advertised on Vogue magazine, the Caledonian Ball. Now, I had no idea what the Caledonian Ball was. I didn't realize that it was a yearly event, which was extremely important in the Scottish and British society. It was like a society ball. And at the time, it was Princess Margaret, who was the patron of this ball. And she would obviously be there and do the opening. And it was very much a high society kind of ball. And I don't know what occurred to me. I said, I'm going. And I said to this friend of mine, let's go. You know, are you going to come with me? Because obviously I wouldn't want to go on my own. And she agreed. Now, the next step was, what do you wear to such a ball? Now, I had no idea, you know, had I read the rules and regulations, I would have understood this whole thing about the Scottish sash and that the dresses had to fall down to the ground. And, you know, there is a specific way of dressing up, which was extremely important for that type of ball. But obviously, I went and I did my own thing. So I remember at the time, it's actually a very funny story because I remember I had this very beautiful cape which my mother had given me, and it was laced all around with fur, with a fox fur. And it was very fashionable at the time, and it was sort of shades of gray. And what I did was I decided that this was going to be the skirt of my dress. And I rummaged through my wardrobe and I found like a corset body, which, you know, I used to love wearing these bodies. And I thought, okay, you know, the color matched in very well. But it became then the process of how do I actually wear the two together. So I went to John Lewis in London and I bought, I think, almost 200-300 safety pins. And once I got to the house and I was preparing myself for the evening, all I did was I swirled it around like a wrap skirt and I pinned every single part of the dress that needed to stay put onto me. And voila, I had my outfit, I did my hair and I went to the event. Truthfully, when I think about it now, I think about it as my Cinderella moment. So it's almost like I had the rags, nothing to wear for this event. And then voila, just like that, you know, my fairy godmother, which was my passion, enabled me, or abled me, I would say, to go out there and to literally just do something crazy and different. The pins are out there, the imagination is in me. You can do anything. So I'm literally just wearing my prototype. And I went to this event. And I have to say, the number of people that came up to me that evening and asked me who the designer of my dress was mind-blowing. Obviously, I will say I still didn't have the courage back in those days to openly come out and say, I'm studying law, but this is what I love to do. So obviously I said to everyone that was telling me, you know, that was commending me on this dress, I said to them, it's a friend of mine and she lives in Dubai. Then I remember somebody woke up to me and she said to me, she handed me a card and she said to me, I work for VOGUE and we host a summer party in July and I'd love to ask your friend to come to this party. And I was blown away. I was nervous, excited, I felt proud. I had so many mixed emotions at that time, and I did nothing about it. That friend was me. I didn't think I was going to go up to my parents and tell them that, oh, I went to this event, and now I've been invited to a party. I've got to, you know, I want to fly out to this party and attend, you know. I didn't have the courage. And now when I look back, sometimes I think of that day and I think, what if I had gone? What if I had the courage? But here's the thing. Who knows what might have happened? But the point is, I didn't do it. And the point is, I did other things later. And the point is, I still went to that party. And the point is, I still had the realization and the knowledge that this person came up to me and thought that what I was wearing was spectacular enough to be invited to this event. I wasn't ready. That's the story I tell myself now. I don't beat myself about it. I used to. But now I tell myself I wasn't ready for that. But in between, I did other things, and that's what's important. I didn't stop and give up. No, I kept pushing myself and doing the things I knew I could do and I was comfortable to do. And it was still all under that umbrella, you know? It was still all to do with the fashion and passion and what I loved. I simply wasn't taking those bigger steps to do something which felt like it was totally out of my comfort zone, and I wasn't ready for that. Being ready or finding that point when you're ready is important. If I was ready back in those days and I had gone, who knows what might have happened? It might have been a totally different story. But today, that's not my story. Today, my story is that I didn't take certain steps, but instead I took other steps. And once again, it's important to acknowledge that every single step counts. One must never say the what if, I wish I did. And the thing is, I am guilty of it as well. And because I know I'm guilty about it, I'm trying to be mindful of that realization, or the realization that I have the ability to sometimes do this to myself, but then to direct the focus onto where I am today, how I got to where I am today, the important and necessary steps, and at what point I had the courage to do a lot of things. So I think really the conclusion I can draw out of all of this is how to link the correct moment with the courage, with the inventor in you. There's an inventor in all of us. There is a passionate person in all of us. I mean, I started off and I told you about my lovely driver, and I'm still thinking about it today and thinking about how his story is going to be, you know, after seeing what he did in that room of his, how he pulled together and built a prototype an exceptional piece out of nothing. And then I think about myself and how I had the courage to actually go to an event and create a dress and just safety pin it all together. Maybe I didn't have the courage to go to this bigger event. Maybe he doesn't have the courage today to take it a step further. But that's not the important thing. The important thing is to be acknowledged, to be able to do baby steps, to show what you can do to someone, to wear what you've created. And it doesn't have to be the most professional tailor that pulls things, puts it all together for you. To actually use your limited resources to create something which you love, you feel passionate about, is an exceptionally great starting point and is the biggest courage you can do for yourself.